Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, a forum for business owners and senior executives to share the experiences about the elements that drive their success. Your host is Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media.co.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is Russell Barnett, Managing Director and Chief Marketing Officer of Mochi. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me today. How are you?
Good. So Russell, I love your ice cream. I've totally had it at restaurants,
Cool.
and I've seen it at the stores a lot. And I was doing a little bit of research before this recording, and you guys have a fantastic history. You're an LA-based company. My understanding is the company started as a retail location in 1910. Tell us a little bit about the story and how we got to here today in 2020, where you're selling Mimo.
Yeah, well, it's a crazy story. So, Mochi ice cream is actually uniquely American, and it's widely believed that it was invented in Los Angeles by a woman named Frances Hashimoto in the early 90s. And Frances was fourth generation Japanese American, taking on the family business, and unfortunately, she passed away in about 2010 or so. And the family decided they were going to get out of the business. And so we took the company over in 2015 with the investment thesis. We were going to bring Mochi to the masses. And people said, Mochi to the masses? Never heard of it. And we said, well, that's exactly it. And so we launched the Mimo brand in 2017 with this sort of belief that it was more than ice cream. It was really a snack that happened to be frozen. It's handheld, portion controlled, and really bitextural in nature, if you will. And so that sort of began our journey to create this amazing brand.
I'm doing a keto diet right now, and what I would give for one bite, because it's such an interesting experience, right? Like in my household, we joke about mouthfeel. But like you guys
all about mouthfeel.
Exemplify like such a unique mouthfeel from other types of products.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, the whole snacking is the holy grail. And consumers today snack more than any other generations, 4+ times a day. Texture and duality for us, that bitexturality as we talk about it, is such an important piece. That idea of biting and getting the pillowiness of the Mochi ice cream, the Mochi with the creaminess of the ice cream. And it really becomes an experience first, with flavor as a place where you can go, oh yeah, I like that, or I don't like that. But it's all about the experience first and foremost.
So you've worked at a number of places. You've had some fantastic experience with Kavita, Pop Chips, Mike's Hard Lemonade. Tell us how you got into this position where you're managing such an interesting product.
I got really lucky, to be honest. I cut my teeth early on in the agency business. Actually, my dad was a creative director for an agency, and so I tried like hell never to do this. And unfortunately, sometimes you just take the path of least resistance. So as I left the agency business, I got a call from a crazy Canadian guy named Anthony Von Mandel, who had this interesting idea and this product called Mike's Hard Lemonade. He really wanted to bring it into the U.S. And through a mutual friend, he gave me a call and asked me to do this. And I begrudgingly said, look, we'll give it a year, and we're going to either do one of two things. Either we're going to fail miserably, or we're going to make history. And so there was no real sort of middle ground for that. And what that experience really taught me was, how to really, bring a brand to life in a big way, and looking at usagification to drive sort of the brand personality. And so spent a lot of time doing that. We took Mike's to about $150 million, still sitting around 25 years later, 20 years later, and really the precursor to what is White Claw today, same group. So that was really cool. And then I got asked to join Pop with Keith Belling, and Keith is an interesting guy, and we got to really dig into lifestyle and understood the sort of idea of how lifestyle and usage occasion could really come together to create a platform for snacking. And that really taught me the importance of snacking. And then I was fortunate enough to be drafted over by another TSG backed company called Gardein. And really that was about bringing plant-based protein to the masses. And so again, it was building upon something we had already done, which was this idea of really creating categories, really understand how to take things to the mass, understanding that the niche wasn't really what we wanted to play, and understanding that the idea of inclusivity in how you take a product to market was really the most important thing we can do. And so when I joined MIMO, it was really this idea that people believed Mochi ice cream was a very, very niche-y product, but in fact, it had a 20+ year history being sold in a lot of sort of specialty places, but hadn't been given the permission to go to the mass. And so what we really decided to do was take all of the goodness that was inherent in Mochi ice cream and create a platform that allowed it to be acceptable by the mass market.
How do you do,
so that's
how do
what
you
we
do
went
that?
to do.
Like, you know, what's interesting when I look at the commonalities across your career, like the brands that you've touched are really brands that like take a unique spin on an existing idea. Like you're not selling ice cream, you're selling mochi ice cream. You're not selling potato chips, you're selling like pop chips. Like it's a different, it's like a slightly different twist on an existing idea.
Well, that's really a great point, because consumers, and what we did with MIMO was really cool. It's the same principle. You know, consumers can really only deal with one step change. And if you give more than one step change, they lose their bearing, they lose their footing, and they can't quite figure out what you are. And now you're in this position of having to spend, you know, a lot of money to educate people on a lot of different changes. That gets really expensive and really confusing. And so with Mochi ice cream, what we understood was that the step change that people could handle was this idea of chewing your ice cream, keeping the weird, because that doesn't happen. Now you've got to lockstep everything else into place. So keep the weird, chew your ice cream. Name people can pronounce. So MIMO.
Right.
Lean in, take it away from this idea of being wholly Japanese, this belief system. And again, Mochi ice cream, you know, it is widely believed to be invented in Los Angeles, and give it more of an Asian inspiration. Okay. Now take a look at flavor profiles. Now, I didn't grow up with yuzu and black bean and red plum, but I did grow up with vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry.
Right.
And if I have to get really exotic, I can get to green tea and I can get to mango. All right.
And if I want to get really crazy, I'll add Oreos into my vanilla.
Right, exactly. Well, we'll do that, but we take heritage flavors that you understand. Now it's act like a snack and run like hell. And what we did was we said, look, if we're going to take this to the masses, we're going to go to the masses right away. So we didn't start in, you know, your local stores. We started at, you know, Kroger. We started at Safeway. We started at Wegmans, and then we backfilled into sort of the more natural and specialty space, which is unheard of in how we do this. And so through all of these trials and tribulations of this business in the past 3 years, and you know what we've been able to accomplish, you know, we're in 30,000 stores, like in 3 years, unbelievable. Where, you know, the category, Mochi ice cream as a category is now 2% of all ice cream novelty sales. MIMO owns 85% of the category. These are unheard of. And we've lovingly come to this conclusion that if you think about our business, it makes no sense, but if you feel it, it makes perfect sense. So we've really become really aligned with this idea of being a feeling business that's backed by some level of of data to help support the feeling of where we're going.
Now, I did some research, a couple of things. I think I saw the number. You're a $100 million company.
We're going to eclipse $150 million in retail sales.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
When you started with this 3 years ago, like how fast did that grow?
Well, MIMO, remember, we launched MIMO in January of 2017. So the MIMO brand was a goose egg. It was a zero. So
Perfect.
Zero. It was zero.
Go.
So MIMO as a brand, it has, has grown a category, almost 7x. It was less than 0.5% of all ice cream novelties when we came on the scene. And here we are, 3 years later, and really created this category and become this what we lovingly say, sort of deem this once in a decade phenomena. So the way to think about it is think about what Chobani did to yogurt, what Kind did to bars. It's really that really creaminess of brands who have cut through and created their own sort of platform in which others spring up to, and that's really been so wonderful and fun.
So when I think about this, right, you have the quality of the product and the way you're thinking about the product and the story and the way it makes people feel. Is the driver, the exponential driver there, the fact that you have distribution in 30,000 stores?
Yeah, and the driver is we're in 30,000 stores, and yet we haven't even begun. So, while we're really, our ACV is around 45 or so in conventional grocery.
What's ACV? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. ACV is really the percentage of total available stores you can sell in. Okay. So we're not even halfway there. Now, the good news is we've conquered, and we're available in all the majors. So that's been fantastic. But what it leads is a lot of opportunities. So when you think about it, it's convenience stores. I mean, that's a tremendous place to be there. It's drug. So the CVS's and the like. It's international, for example. We're only in the US, a little bit in Canada, but mostly domestic. It leaves a whole arena for food service for us. So it could be colleges and universities. It could be business and institution campuses like the Google campus, Twitter, things along those lines. And it also leads to restaurants, for example. Quick serve restaurants have yet to jump on this, but we know there's a great opportunity. So in our mind, while we've done a great amount of work in 3 years, we're just beginning.
So I noticed, I did a little bit of research on your website. I noticed you get a lot of great press from like Refinery 29.
Yeah.
You have something going on with Uniqlo, Taste of Home, Thrillist.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on around National Ice Cream Day.
Yep.
What I noticed is that you're not doing, at least on the two places that I looked at Moat for banner advertising, and I looked at Facebook Ad Library. I see no advertising running.
Yep.
Why do you not? tell me about that decision.
So we do a little bit of paid media, and it is in the digital domain. It is generally spotty throughout the year, really during sort of seasonal moments for us. And so you do see it, and we always have an always on mentality. Where the brand really resonates and how we really go to market up until COVID has really been through the experiential world. So you'll see a lot of partnerships through things like the Museum of Ice Cream, Color Factory. You brought up Uniqlo, which was great because there's a true convergence between food and fashion. And that was a great way to sort of extend the brand at a really interesting way of going at it. PR is always an important part of our business. And a lot of that happens through people finding about the brand and falling in love with it. And a lot of the other work happens through is in social. And a lot of influencers tend to fall in love with the brand. We do very little paid in that arena as well. And so that's how this brand has come to life.
Yeah, I mean, with such.
And the other piece, by the way, I should really mention, and probably the most important piece, is if you go into major retailers, you see the Mochi bar, which is that bar in the bakery section where the balls are loose and you can pick and choose your one, your two, your three. That's really become, we're in about 3,000 stores with that. And that's really become a paid, profitable sampling mechanism for our business. So the retailer wins and we win because it's a low barrier to entry to trial. Now, when COVID hit, obviously that business as loose went away. But funnily enough, a year ago, we identified that that business as a loose business would have a finite shelf life, if you will. And so a year ago, we started working on a single serve package. And so we just launched our single serve packaging a month ago. So now these loose balls are in a single serve FDA compliant label that you can now pick up 1, 2, 3 at a time, fully packaged, ready to go, and fresh. And so that becomes our new sampling mechanism.
On the last episode, we interviewed Garrett Smith, who's the president of American Popcorn. So their brand is Jolly Time. They're having a great few months. Sales are increasing dramatically. They're trying very hard to keep their manufacturing to meet the pace of demand. How has the last 3-4 months been for you? I imagine people are at home eating ice cream.
Yeah, I would say to you, we're an essential business, and so we're always open, which is good. And I'd say to you, we're a joy-based business, and so and we do have a purpose, and play is our purpose. And so for us, the idea that we can enhance a cruddy situation is important, and certainly the business has taken has taken an uptick. Freezer stocking is really important, and comfort's really important, and snacking is more important than ever. So it's been really nice for us. The good news is that we also understood a couple of years ago that the business would scale, and early on invested heavily in doubling the capacity of the business from when we first acquired it. So plenty of run rate, and we're super proud to say that as our customer orders have increased, that we've been able to keep up with demand without a real issue.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What does the rest of the year look like for you? Like, is it getting like what has changed? Has anything changed for you guys? Like, the funny thing is, like, we're both recording this from Los Angeles, and it's like, ups and downs. One day you're open, next day you're not open. Like, how do you plan for the uncertainty that we're all living through over the next few, months?
Well, I think the uncertainty is not from a business perspective, from putting the product on the shelf. Again, as an essential business, that's important for us. We're not gonna close anytime soon. It's more important than ever that our retailers can get food to those folks. Whether that be that they're coming in the store or through a pickup or some level of delivery. So our world really now functions in a way that supports that retailer and that consumer ability to get the product. And because we're a frozen item, overnight shipping is not an option. Very expensive. So what we really look to do is ensure that our retailers and the folks who are supporting those retailers know that they can, in fact, pick it up directly from the retailer. They can place those orders online and can find the product with little to no issue. So that's been important. And on the marketing side, that's really the ups and downs, if you will, because the idea of the experience and the idea of really putting mochi balls in people's hands and creating tasty conversations, that world has ended. But with a business that really has this idea of bringing play to your world, now we have to get more creative than ever to bring this notion of playfulness to your mobile phone, because that's where you're on every day, and not to get so serious as to believe that we are what's top of mind. I mean, we're a transaction. We take up maybe a minute of your day every couple of days, and so the idea that we're a transaction, you had to be really singularly focused that if you think too much about my Mochi ice cream, we've spent too much time with you. And so having that real clear lens of where that permission slip resides in our consumers' lifestyle is important for us. And it's very, it's our North Star.
Can you tell us more about plays our purpose, and we're a joy-based business? Like, so
yeah,
to me, like you could have gone so many different directions, but just looking at the background of your Zoom right now, like I can tell that totally expands on that position that you're a joy-based business.
Well, I think what I'd say to you is, look, I always get the question, what's your favorite part of your day? And I'm usually very crass, and I get to say I play with my mochi balls all day. And so that's real. And so when that's your business, I mean, that's a smile-based business, for God's sakes. Who can take yourself seriously? But my background is in food, and I look at a lot of things that are happening in the food world, whether it be a retail product, whether it be chef-based product, whatever that may be. And I think my biggest frustration and where the biggest opportunity is that food's got to make you feel good. I mean, it's a base thing. And when I say that, I literally get a shiver in my body, because it's the basis of basis things you need, to sustain your life. And food should be a joyful moment. And if you do it well, it brings a smile to you. If you do it well, you have people around you. If you do it well, it creates conversation. If you do it well, it's all smiles. It should not be a shitty situation. The crappiness comes in it when you put boundaries on it. When you say, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or when guilt comes in, or when I've got a diet that says this, screw that. I mean, those are your choices to make, and we respect everybody's choice to make that kind of choice. But at some point, have fun. And so when we think about what that idea of play as our purpose, it is really that idea of bringing a less serious, more playful tonality to your day when you're ready for it. Our business is really predicated on three things. One, play as our purpose is our consumer promise. Our product promise is keep the weird, chew your ice cream. And our corporate culture is have more fun than anybody else. So when you play within fun, weird, and play, I mean, the world is amazing. And it really started with when we first started, and we have a 110,000 square foot facility. We're a pretty good size operation, and when you go into our facility, our manufacturing facility, we're a vertically integrated facility. We make the ice cream, we make the mochi dough, we make the mochi ice cream. We don't private label, we don't co-pack for anybody else. We like to have all the fun. And the first time I went into the back, I was taken aback by how big it is, first of all. But then we have a room where it's, of course, minus 25 degrees because it's a freezer. But we have another room that's 100 degrees and almost 100% humidity. And then we have every room in between. And when you look at this, and you look at one room, you're making something, another room, you're making another thing, you bring it into another room, you destroy those two things you made to make something else. It's Willy Wonka. And I realized that these folks in the back who were making this product were having more fun than anybody else. This is craziness. It's mayhem. And so that was the genesis for the idea of how do we bring this play to the world outside? And that's what we went and did.
That's
it wasn't
amazing.
Manufacturing this idea of, well, this would be a really cool position. It was just looking around us and looking and seeing what we inherently had and went, holy crap, this is really cool.
I love that. So it seems like these ideas came naturally and were derived naturally out of watching your business grow. Like, I always wonder, business is such how should I put this? It's such an interesting, unique expression of the person who's starting the business.
Yeah.
Right. So I imagine that you didn't like, did you have like an agency or some like brand folks help you hone in on that? Or was that a fully like, it just came to you guys?
Well, the guys who invested in this business were a private equity group called Century Park Capital. And they really had the vision of bringing Mochi to the masses, and clearly, you know, they had some, I'd say they had some outside help.
Mm-hmm.
And when so my partner Craig Berger, who's the CEO, and I really started digging in on this, I would say that we looked at the work that had been done, and there was, and we understood why the work was there. And what we realized was it really, it got the nod because you couldn't say no. And I don't mean couldn't say no in a good way. There was just nothing you could argue. And I was really fortunate a little bit of time in my career to study with a cultural anthropologist. And a cultural anthropologist taught me that you have to have conflict in brand. And if without conflict, passion doesn't reside. Conflict is a great thing. And if everything's sticky, sweet, and wonderful, and it's all happy, happy, joy, joy, there's nothing for you to grab onto. There's no grit. There's no friction. And so really, when we took this on, you know, we looked for friction, and friction was dough and ice cream. Well, that's effing amazing. But chewing your ice cream, that's where friction is, because you don't chew your ice cream. So we found that friction. And then we said, well, yeah, we've got ice cream in our name, but we've also got dough. Well, so that means we're really a snack that happens to be frozen. Friction, act like a snack.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and so we looked for those friction points, and those became the places where we really found our world. And so we've all, you know, Craig came out of 25 years at McCormick and building world-class brands out of McCormick. And I came from, you know, smaller, you know, brands that really created something special. And what we both had in common was this idea of bravery and really feeling comfortable being uncomfortable. And so we always know that if we're uncomfortable, we're in a good place. If we find that it's not comfortable, we know that we haven't pressed hard enough. And so that's a really, you know, that's not for everybody. That is a really scary place to be. And we tend to really create a culture and a business that thrives on this idea of being brave and being a little uncomfortable to get to a really special place.
So that conflict should really appear in your brand.
Yep.
What happens if that? Okay. So I mean, look, a couple of things, right? Like pop chips, total conflict. I think you can see that. Mike's Hard Lemonade, there's conflict there.
Yep.
So I guess that's interesting, because the innovation that comes out of that conflict.
Yeah. And you know, we lovingly use a tagline, because whatever. Chew your ice cream, because whatever. It's an absolute indifference and a real notion of, we get ourselves. Like, so what? It's dough and ice cream. For God's sakes, it's not changing the world. Is it important? Yeah, to me, to the 200 folks that we employ, to our retailers, because we bring something special. But in the grand scheme of things, it's dough and ice cream. And so it's that focus of understanding your real purpose and where you live and where you reside and how you go to market, and the idea of not taking yourself too seriously.
It's like you're living the brand. Like I can tell in your enthusiasm that like this is like the job you were born for.
You know, look, I have never had more fun in my career. I will never have this much fun ever again in my career. And all the things that I've done up to this point, I've taken something from every one of those things we started out with, and I've been able to build upon those. And we have taken our, collective experience of, 50, 60 years or something of scene, in our management group, and really taken that in a way that's allowed us to do what we've always wanted to do, because why not?
Yeah.
It's working.
Amazing. So, yeah. Russell, how can, so in Los Angeles, for example, are you in all the major stores?
Yeah, you can go to Vons, Pavilions, Ralph's, Sprouts. We're in every one. You go to, every major retailer, and Target stores, for example, great retail partner of ours as well. You'll find us in Walmart. So anywhere that you're shopping, if you're in the frozen section, you'll find us.
Is there any, have you ever considered retail operations, or is that not a business that makes sense for you guys?
It's not a business that we're really, actively pursuing. With the idea of the Mochi bar, with this idea of that single serve grab and go, which does reside in the grab and go section of retailers, that really becomes a much more interesting and much more scalable solution for us. And frankly, it's an experience for you as the consumer on your terms, which feels much more on brand for us than us opening up a shop and going, come on in, how can we help you? And so again, looking at that filter and saying, how would we act in what's the right way for the brand to get people to put Mimo Mochi ice cream balls in their hands and mouths.
Awesome. Well, Russell, I think we're going to wrap up the interview. This was fantastic. I got so excited listening to your enthusiasm for Mimo. Thank you for being with us here on the LA Business Podcast. If people want to reach out to you, go to the website. What's the best way to do that?
You can go to the website and reach out, or you can, I'll give out my email. It's russell@mochiicecream.com. Cool. You can send me a note, and I'm pretty good about getting back to everybody.
Russell Barnett, everyone. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thanks so much. Have a good day.